this July 15th meeting to order. Before we start, I'd like to just say something real quickly. I'd like to take a moment to apologize for missing last week's meeting, but also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone, my fellow board members, our superintendent, senior staff, our teachers and staff and members of the community for prayers and messages of support during our family's recent medical concerns. Also like to ask for continued prayer and support in the days and weeks to come. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So thank you very much. Mr. Kudetsky, would you please call the roll?
Pete Wildebohr.
Present.
David Perry.
Present.
Judy Justice.
Present.
Very good. Thank you all for being here today. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Reverend Terry Henry from the Macedonia Baptist Church will be leading our invocation. And it says on the paper that I'm leading the pledge, so I'm leading the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sovereign God, you are our Lord and the keeper of our universe. Your word reminds us we are your people and the sheep of your pasture. Today, as the board begins their meeting for the betterment of our schools, we thank you for the leadership, for every teacher, every faculty and staff member, and particularly for our students. We pray for your continued protection over every campus and all of our students. We pray specifically that you will grant this board direction, wisdom, and clarity in their decision-making so that whatever decisions they make will be for the improvement and betterment of our schools. We thank you for your guidance and your loving kindness. May we forever give your name praise. Amen.
Amen. All right. Carrying on quickly, we do have a short agenda today, but a lot of things that are very important. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Mr. Perry.
I'd like to, I checked last night, is 2210 on the agenda?
It is.
Okay.
Sure is.
In addition, because of some changes that I proposed in regards to 2210, I also want to, in moving some stuff around, I also like to motion that we add policy 2120 and 2230 to the agenda after 2210.
Okay. And before asking for a second, my only concern in that, I'm going to be honest, is the fact that we've had a whole week since the last meeting, and you know, to get folks up and running, I would have no problem in putting those on for August, but I'm going to have to vote against putting them on for today, just because these folks aren't prepared for that. I thank you very much for sending that text message last night, but it was almost 9 o'clock at night when I looked back and started trying to look at this stuff. So I'm going to vote against it just for that reason, but I have no problem in adding that on for next month. But is there a second?
Word for word. I mean, it was late when we got it. I mean, that was okay. We want to do this, but we time to be able to reflect and look at things.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of it, what was in the proposed, for instance, part of what was in the proposed change that we will be discussing on 2210, most of it, with some alterations, I was planning on moving to 2120 and 2230. It's because I think it's in the wrong place.
Okay. And I have no problem with that. Like I say, I don't think, and unless one of you feel differently, I don't think there's anything pressing saying that we've got to do this today, we've got to do all this moving around. I mean, I think that it is definitely a worthy discussion, 100%. But I just don't think that, and we don't have a set, like, my goodness, it's got to be in by Friday. But I mean, on the other hand, we also don't have, we probably need to have that, but kind of like the full board has, maybe we should say the Friday prior, so at least people would have enough time to make sure. but you still have the right to add, to try to add that. But let me go ahead and we'll move forward and say, is there a second to add in those two for today? Hearing none, we will carry on. So we have a motion and second to approve the agenda as stated. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. That passes 3-0. Mr. Perry, and you and I can talk about it, but if you'd like to add 2120 and 2230 on for August, we can definitely do that. All right, moving forward, let's go on to the board attorney. I look back at the notes. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited about being here again. Approval of the minutes. Do I hear, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in agreement to approve the minutes as provided, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Okay, passes 3-0. See, I'm warming my feet back up here again, that's good. All right, first policy is 2610, and we left that, Mr. Perry had made the motion in the notes to ask the board attorney to come up with some clear wording on that. So, Mr. Kromke.
Thank you, Chair Wildebohr. I spoke with Mr. Perry last night about this, and what I suggested to him is that we have an open discussion with this meeting, with this committee,
Okay.
and the attorney about what I do for you all, so that everyone's very clear, and what needs to go into this policy, so that it's very clear for everyone.
Absolutely.
What tool is the attorney for the board? And what I want to make sure the board recognizes some goals from me and Mr. Blanchard. We recognize that we represent the school system as a whole, the entity as a whole, the board as a whole. We do not represent any individuals. We don't represent Dr. Barnes as an individual or Ms. Justice as an individual. That our allegiance, our duty, and our diligence has to go to the whole entity at all times. With that said, we're doing a whole lot of different things. I cover in court the vehicle seizure hearings, where drunk drivers have their cars taken away. Occasionally I'll go down for a motion to set aside a bond forfeiture, and a bond is forfeited when a criminal defendant doesn't appear for court. The bond goes to the school district. Their bondsmen then come back and try to get that back. And I go down and I tackle those. Well, I sometimes have to shoot from the hip, because I'm not seeking on every particular Honda 2013, being seized from a person. I don't think it'd be worth my while to spend 2 hours trying to figure out what my marching orders are from the board. We're dealing with hearings for the board. We're dealing with policy for the board. We field a ton of calls and texts from various people on the board, and then also, though, with Dr. Barnes's team. We're trying to deal with certain matters that are arising. Some of them reach the board's level, but most of them are dealt with by Dr. Barnes's team, and I'll have people reach out. I guess my question to everyone, and I said this, I think, a couple meetings ago, if I'm obligated to make a report on every single thing I do, man, that our bills would probably double or triple, and we don't want that. We don't want to, shear the sheep so bad that you guys look at us and say, wow, look at these bills. So I recognize that there has to be a balancing act for all these things. And when I look at a lot of these proposed changes, I worry, my concern is that our bill would go off the charts if I'm having to report for a quick text exchange. They don't even put on my bill for you guys. And I think Dr. Barnes can elaborate. Mr. Blanchard's handling a lot of the phone calls and communications, but I try to put the nitty-gritty of what I'm doing on my every single entry that I put. When I'm dealing with a school teacher or a principal who's been subpoenaed to a custody matter, I think so far 100% of our personnel don't want to get involved. They want to stay neutral. But all those little nuances throughout the day, I'm dealing with the court, I'm dealing with the clerk of court, I'm dealing with the other attorney. We're then having Ms. Barnum's team put together a document production. We do satisfy that, and then we redact the document production before we send it to the other attorneys. And then I get on the horn with the other attorneys and I tell them, hey, listen, our teacher wants to continue to be a neutral advocate. Doesn't want to have a dog in this custody battle. We recognize that the children are important. We recognize some parents may think that the teacher has something better to say than the other, but at the end of the day, the teachers and the staff want to stay neutral to allow them to continue doing their job. And I don't send reports on any of that. I worry that by beating this policy to death, I'm going to feel an obligation to send a report and to put that on my bill. And I don't know. That's the discussion I want to have in open session. I think it's important that we all say, here's what we want the lawyer to do. And that's what this policy is meant to be. So I think it's time for us to talk about this out in the open so that I'm clear on what my reporting duties are, and also so we can put it in here. I think right now, and when I look at this, Chair Wildebohr, it's very broad. It's very broad, and I think it could be refined to maybe half that. And I think we'd hit the important parts, that my duty lies with the entire system. It's a body, not any individual. And then we'll figure out what level of reporting you all want.
And without Ms. Mason being here, I don't know, the policy now states that we're supposed to funnel everything through her back out to everyone, and I don't know that that's even happening. I don't know that it happened under my tutelage.
I would say that I'm not reporting on the vehicle, the stuff I'm doing in court. I'm not reporting on any of the custody stuff I'm dealing with for Ms. Varnum's team, Ms. Geller's team. Not reporting on when I speak to other attorneys who are defending the school district for workers' comp matters and stuff like that.
Ms. Justice?
Well,
Dr. Barnes?
You can go first.
when you bill, it's mainly your hours. Is there any kind of brief description on what it's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that sounds like, you gotta be practical and realistic here. That sounds like how we've been handling it in the past, that it's been affected by the billing process. Another thing that I'm concerned about, I saw this yesterday or last week when I looked at it the first time. I don't understand this. Somebody put some brackets in here, somebody added some little squiggly, somebody highlighted something, and none of this makes sense. Why, is this the stuff that's been added? This is not the usual procedure when we go through these policies and refine them. So I'm a little confused about what this even means.
I think what Ms. Justice is referring to, there was a handout at some point I was handed. Is that?
Yeah, it's this
See
one right
that?
here, very
And then I printed the full policy on. Yeah, I have the same thing as you.
Yeah, and this is all that I had, and this is online.
That was my questions as well. What do I look at?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
sorry.
happy to
This
take a
doesn't make-
stab at rewriting this in its entirety after I hear from Dr. Barnes and from the rest of it.
Because this does not make any sense.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Dr. Barnes?
I want to make sure three things that I want to make sure I covered. All of the past attorney bills are available in my office for a board member who'd like to see them. I've got them all printed out and collated if we need it. Second, I think it's important for the board to consider how much it's costing itself as well through this process. More of our public records requests are for board emails than anything else. I just want you to be aware that when we budget amount of money for the superintendent, if everyone is accessing if everyone's accessing the attorney individually to get information, that cost adds up. So you want to be efficient as well in your dealings with things. And I think that may come down to sort of a trust issue as well. Like if Judy hears something from the attorney and she tells the rest of the board, does the rest of the board have to also hear it from the attorney? Do you know what I mean? Like that's a question of how much do you want to charge yourself for the business of doing the board? Because that's money that doesn't go back out to kids. So that's just what my thinking was at point.
Yes, sir. Mr. Perry?
Yeah, I think it's important for us, one, that every board member, if they're working on something and need some legal opinion, prepping for these policy committee meetings, often, for me, it means asking legal questions, so that I know. Do I try to abuse that? No. If I was on the phone with Mr. Crompton and Mr. Blanchard all the time, they would probably start complaining, and, you know, and then start billing us, and then I'd probably hear about it. I try to use it sparingly, and it could be abused. So I don't like the fact that current policy says we have to go through the chair. I think if anybody, as long as we're acting responsibly and not abusing it, I think we should all have access if we need to. And then we can deal with people who abuse it on that privilege on a one-to-one basis. I also understand where Mr. Compton's coming. This would give him a lot of extra busy work to do. So if they have to summarize every conversation they have with us versus what, I think it's important that we know that information, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the attorneys themselves who are doing it. So I mean, some options could be the options I came up with, and maybe none of these are really good. If a board member has a conversation with the attorney, should they just tell the chair and then, or the vice chair, let the chair or the vice chair write up a summary and send it to everybody? That was one option I came up with. Another option would be that the board member who had the conversation has the responsibility to summarize the conversation and send it to everybody. And then finally, I thought, well, maybe, you know, should there be like an audio recording every time we call them, and we could store it somewhere, and then people could look at it as later. But, so I personally think my second choice is just, it's incumbent on the board member to summarize, hey, I had a conversation, just like we do sometimes when we go to the press. We let everybody know, hey, I talked to the reporter at Port City Daily or whatever. Okay. We can just say, I had a conversation with the attorneys about this, and this is what was their response. And send out an email to everybody, and I think that should be good enough.
Well, and I mean, almost what we have, and this is I guess somebody made this recommendation, every board member must be informed of the question and response within 24 hours or prior to, you know, maybe if we just get rid of and response within 24 hours, get rid of that part, and just say by the board member that made the conversation, that had the conversation. I mean, that would take care of that whole thing. So if we
Then it wouldn't add anything to your time.
yeah, then it wouldn't be billable, because do we get paid for this?
Do we? Nickel an hour.
Kidding.
Nickel an
Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I heard what you said, and I think that might be a good idea to involve the whole board with their expectations. And then let's get this done right, have good feedback from everybody, and then you take it back and look at it and see what you think would be, I mean, you're the expert on the law and working with the board. I mean, does this make sense to let it do that way? I thought that was a great idea that he suggested. So this is, and everybody can see this too, how strange that is. It gives them a giggle, you know.
Right.
This seems a lot more, what you're suggesting is a lot more practical and effective, and that would be part of it too, you know, if you have a conversation, the board member has a conversation with one of the attorneys, do a summary and send it to everybody. Yeah, that could be part of it, you know.
That's just two further thoughts. Ordinarily, it's generally, if you're asking the attorney questions, either for the committee that you are in charge of, or about a board-driven action. I would wonder if the attorney should be asking advice, offering advice, giving details on things that aren't previously approved board actions, right? Like, so, because each individual board member does not have the collective will of the whole board necessarily. It's not necessarily like if I call you because I have I've got an idea, I'm going to do something brand new, and I'm going to charge up the 2 hours of your time to develop something that hasn't been board voted on yet. I'm wondering if that's putting the lawyer before the horse, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, we haven't gotten those yet. When we're spending that substantive amount of time, everybody on that board knows what we're doing. I usually send an attorney-client privileged heading email to everybody. I'm not sure if Mr. Blanchard is doing that. Anytime I'm spending a block of time for the school, besides the things I talked about already, the subpoena, the various cases we're dealing with, chatting with the clerk, and redacting stuff from in preparation for either a public records request document production or a subpoena document production, those things stay off your radar, but anytime I go back to that, what is that artificial surveillance deal with the Davidson was the other, every time I did something there, you all heard about what I was doing, because I felt it was important. And it goes back to, I think a couple meetings ago, I said there has to be a level of trust with the lawyers that when it's important things that affect the body, that entity that's New Hanover County Schools, I most certainly am reporting right away. And everybody's staying on the front burner of being the recipient of information. I don't want someone to sit in the dark thinking, has he spoken with that Davidson attorney or not? And though I was, and I think it was Chair Mason we had asked us to open a dialogue with this other attorney. So and when that happened, I was reporting. That had been the last substantive thing. I think there have been some personnel or family matters that Mr. Blanchard dealt with, maybe that I would have liked to see him send more of a report out to keep you guys in the loop. But we can work on that. I can get on him about that. But I do think it would be nice for the board as a whole to try to identify what Ms. Justice just said, lay out our objectives for this attorney, and then come to some sort of agreement on a reporting guideline. That makes sense to me.
Okay. What I think might be a good idea, and if you guys will, and I'm gonna throw this out here. Just looking at, I just got a text message from a board member that shared with me that our billing to Crosley has gone from like 10,000 in December to about 20,000 in May. So that doubled. So we just need to maybe get this all, and I think this idea is great. Yes, sir.
I can comment on that too. Our billing went up for a couple months while we got back on track with the public records requests.
Okay.
I note that we just sent our bill for the month of June yesterday, back down to I think 16 grand. 14. Thank you, Dr. Barnes.
Do I hear 12? Do I hear 12?
Yeah, right.
But it was the backlog of getting our
And-
public records request caught
I
back
think
up.
Dr. Barnes hit it best. When there is, and I gotta use my word wisely here, when there is discord amongst the board, our bills go up. Because we're trying to, you look at a pool of water, all these rocks are being thrown in, it's turbulent. And it's our job to try to stabilize that pool of water again. And so for that, I would say categorically, if the board is getting along and there is less discord, there's less need for us. The entity operates on its own without need for the attorneys to say, hey, this is what you can and you can't do, or you should, or I guess the better words are you should and you should or shouldn't do. Yeah.
Well, and please understand, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that that's where we're at. So
And we want to strive to keep our bills low. We do. We don't want to flog the system each month. We want to provide good legal services. We want to get paid fairly, and we want to keep our bills reasonable under the circumstances.
and I appreciate that you do that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm going to make a motion that we move 2610 onto the full board only for discussion, that we can come and have this discussion as we're saying. So, please remind me, because I'm old and forgetful, that when we get to the agenda review, that we need a little more time for this discussion, but we can discuss it, and then we will bring it back. Mr. Perry, would you serve with Mr. Kromke to formulate this? Maybe the three of us can formulate this policy. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
And Ms. Justice, would you like to be part of it? I
Well,
believe you have.
first we need to hear from everybody.
Well, oh, absolutely, yeah. But I'm saying, once we hear it,
Oh, okay, now you're moving forward from the hearing now.
Yeah. would you like to be part of it too? Because I don't want to.
I'm not any more of an expert than anybody else. I mean, that's whatever.
I'd like to take a stab at trying to lay out the objectives.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that, and then that'll be the starting point for the rest of the
Okay,
board.
we'll do it, but then we'll have the three of us have a discussion
Okay.
about it next meeting.
Okay.
So that's the plan. So, again, there's a
second
motion. Do we have a second? Any further discussion about moving 2610 on to the full board for further discussion, but no changes at this point?
Just for information.
Yes,
Yes.
okay?
And I A second, is
You
that
want
what
a third?
you're looking for? Third?
We know what the vote will be then. All right, all in favor of moving 2610 onto the full board only for discussion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes 3-0. Good start. All right, close that out. Move over here. Next, we have school assignment, 4150.
I have something I'd like to give to the,
All right,
to this out.
handouts. Thank you, sir. Oh, thank you, schools.
Okay. Um,
All right, so as we passed some changes a week ago at the 24150 that unweighted the lottery for our year-round schools, and that passed at our last meeting. But as of our last discussion when we were here, Ms. Justice was not here. We moved it on to the board, and we moved it on without the other cooperative innovative high schools as being part of it, but we had decided we were going to take it back to discuss that further. So, it seemed that there has been concern that the state law requires that we give preferential treatment based off of income and educational level or zip codes or such at-risk factors. And I passed up the law which governs that, and I'm looking at, just Section A right off the bat. Those target any of the following groups: kids who are at risk of dropping out of school, kids whose parents do not continue education beyond high school, or high school students who would benefit from accelerated academic instruction. Well, I think a lot of kids would benefit from accelerated academic instruction if they're up for it. Who wouldn't? I mean, if you can get an associate's degree, while you're still in high school, that's going to be pretty awesome for your life chances. So I don't think there's anything in this law, and I would ask our attorney to comment on it, that requires us to give preferential treatment to people that we consider at risk. I don't necessarily think the word target means that we have to have, a weighted lottery system or preferential treatment. I think it just means that, maybe we can go to these kids and these parents and say, hey, look, this kid, we highly recommend that you apply for this program. And so I'm not tone deaf to the fact that there's some kids who are at risk and could use a push in the right direction, but I don't think we need to necessarily do it with an unfair lottery system.
If I can make a point, the cooperative high schools do not use a lottery system, they use a rubric system that is set up by a certain number of points based on these criteria. It's not strictly a lottery where we talked about where these things come ahead of these things. It's more of a rubric base that says you get points for these, how many criteria of this you get. Does that make sense?
Is that something that we set up, or is that from the state?
It was set up and approved by the board as a part of our enrollment process.
Justice?
This is state law, it supersedes anything we have. And I wasn't here, I was literally in surgery when you guys discussed it. Then it went to the full board with 5 people there, and they overvoted what happened as far as our lottery system goes. I never had a chance to say how appalled I am that this even came up. There is a definite purpose for that lottery system, for the weighted lottery. You go to any school around here, socioeconomic reason. And you can see it, and it's a fact. Every major educational study has shown that kids coming from high poverty areas definitely have a big whammy against them. And our setting up with our year-round schools was just trying to even it out. In fact, that happened under Markley when he noticed a big discrepancy because we had an overload of affluent parents who had more information, more opportunities to drive their kids to school. They were overloading our year-round schools. So we put that in place to try to even it out. We had a parent that was unhappy that didn't, I don't think fully understood the reasoning behind it. As I said, I wasn't here during the discussion last week. I tried to bring it up when we brought it to the board and they voted to get rid of our lottery system. I mean, I'm just one person, but ethically and educationally wise, what we're doing, it goes against what's best for our kids. I didn't have a chance to say it because I wasn't here. And Pete, you should know that. You've been in schools and you've seen the effects of poverty. And if you've looked at the statistics before Markley, I think it was under him, when, we could go back and look at it, before he initiated this, and the difference in the population of those year-round schools then to make it more equitable and help those kids that needed that pull, it made sense. So this came about a couple weeks ago. I said I was in surgery. It just got thrown out there. We've never had a clear discussion about why it's important to have the lottery system the way we do that's weighted. Maybe we can't change it now. And to think that, you know, the state has a reason for this for their points. If you guys don't understand the inequities in our world and how we're here for all of our kids and to pull all of them up the best way possible, and that was one of the ways to do it. The state decided this is one of the ways for these kids too, and our district did. I'm very sad that you can't appreciate the reality of the world, because that's exactly what it is, and it's best for our kids. The socioeconomic studies have shown when the higher income students are exposed to the lower income students in a healthy environment and good proportion, everybody lifts up. Not just the lower income kids, but also the higher income kids. So this is helping everybody all the way around. None of this is done lightly, and none of this is done, I'm not sure why people are so against trying to help kids. But some people think it's some kind of inequity in the opposite direction, or prejudice, or trying to make up for, it's not a matter of making up for the lost past. The past is the past. It's trying to help our kids now. So this is, you know, I guess I can't say a lot because the vote's already been taken. But to bring this up about the point system, that just makes no sense. Leave it to the state. Leave it to what we've already done. There's nothing wrong with it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Justice.
Oh, Mr. Conkey first.
I think the initial question from Mr. Perry to me was, in my mind, as long as we haven't defined what is at risk, that is left to the superintendent. And you can have a person who makes a lot of money and still be at risk, is my own opinion. And to my knowledge, there's no definition for what you need to determine are at risk. Is that correct, Dr. Barnes?
No, when we work individually, counselors and principals work individually to help identify the kids who would best benefit, regardless of the other factors. However, if two kids put in the application and one hits 3 of these criteria and one only hits 1, the slots will go to the kids who hit more of the criteria.
And that makes sense to me. Without having a formal definition of at risk, it leaves it up to you and your team.
And a full explanation has been sent to the board inside of our weekly updates as well, if you guys want to look at it a little more deeply.
Barry?
I just want to respond to my colleague in front of me, comments briefly. It's not like we don't care, but we've had this conversation, and what we're talking about is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really just another name for the same thing. We've already voted for this. I know you've made your point. You keep making your point. But what we want, I think the majority of this board wants, is equal opportunity for every single child. I don't think there's anything wrong for wanting that. I don't know if they use zip codes in these innovative schools or how exactly this rubric is set up. I'd like to see some more information, but the fact that one of the criteria previously for our lotteries for Coddington Eaton was that you live in zip code 28401. Well, I'm going to tell you, there's some poor kids living in a freaking, over on this side of town, in a trailer park, who are just as bad off as the kids in 28401. So I'm sorry to tell you. I mean, and just because somebody, and then we're penalizing people for making money and working 2 jobs because by not letting their kid in, even though they're just trying to do the best they can for their child, but they make too much. We're penalizing parents for going the extra mile for their family instead of just sucking off welfare and then expecting to get
Excuse me.
preferential treatment.
Excuse me, that's very disrespectful to society. Please don't bring that up.
Ms. Justice.
That's not part of this.
And Dr. Barnes has the rubric, so we can,
And this was one that you guys provided a copy of last Friday as well. It's gonna take me a minute to find this.
okay. Well, and I'll say, since we have a moment while he looks that up, he's pulling out the rubric. But I mean, I think we all are here because we want the best for all our students, whether they're rich, whether they're poor. You know, but I also don't think we should say to a child, you know, your parents are well off, so you can't get this or you can't get that. I don't think that's right either. I think we need to come up with a system where we raise as you said before, we raise everybody up. We don't sit there and say, well, you don't get a chance because, I'm sorry, you know, like I said, my wife and I were educators, are educators, and you know educators unfortunately don't make a lot of money, but we did our very, very best for our family, and, you know, but that's why don't you have that? So-
Sorry, it's gonna take me a minute, but I will say that, you know, when Julie and I discussed, the data isn't necessarily available that shows that a year-round school placed the kid in a better position to graduate than a non-year-round school, a traditional school. So both Julie and I understand the removal of any kind of lottery ranking for those schools. But with the cooperative high schools, with this being specifically for these criteria, it's sort of a different story. So it just takes me a minute to find it, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, fine. Appreciate you having it on hand. Ms. Justice.
Right, and I totally appreciate what you're saying. But what I do is look at education data and have for 20, 30 years. And it's proven. It's proven. It's not DEI. It is equality, which you said. What it does is it brings the schools into position that kids have the equal opportunity to experience a good environment. And this is not just new information. This has been around since the 1980s, 1990s. In fact, if you remember right, I think it was about 2017 or 18, when Dr. Markley, here we go, actually said that our neighborhood schools, and that's the reason we have the disparities in our schools, all has to do with socioeconomic, and it's all factual, and it's all based on research. So, I mean, you can deny it, and you can care about individual people. I care about all the individual people. I'm looking at what's best overall for all of our kids. Because how many kids we got now? 25,000? That's a lot of kids. And, you know, there's a lot of different needs in those 25,000 kids. But looking at it practically from studies, educational, what works, I mean, it was wonderful when they initiated it in Wake County all across the board. The scores went up, everybody's did. It was nationally known, and it's still the model for doing, by integrating for socioeconomic reasons. We're just doing that on a small scale on the year-round schools, because it was literally getting so out of hand when they were looking at the demographics of what was going on with the kids that were in the school. And year-round school does give a certain advantage, and we know that. I work in year-round schools. I wish we had them now.
Yeah, well, middle school and high school would be great.
The problem with that is sports. We looked at that. I was living in Durham. We were really looking seriously at it. Sports was the big drawback.
Well, you know, if the child wants to, they'll come in even on their intercession and
Yeah.
play sports if they really want to. But
Yeah.
So I'll have to look for it, I'm sorry, I don't have it complete.
not a problem. So, Mr. Perry, you will.
One final thing, you know, my college roommate, Jose Rivera, of Puerto Rican descent, lived in Boston, in a city. We met in college. We're still buddies to this day. So, and just talked to him this morning, actually. And when we got to college, we went to the same college, obviously, we were roommates, you know, and my father was a teacher. My mom was a homemaker. We weren't like starving, but we weren't rich either. My father was a school teacher. So when it came to college, there was no money for me. I worked my way through school. I took out a bunch of loans I probably didn't have, you know. So he came from some poverty too, but he came from the inner city poverty, and because he was in Puerto Rico, to say he got special scholarships that I never got. It's not because he was smarter or anything. We were equally smart, but he got it just for the fact that he was in this socioeconomic group. But somebody didn't recognize the fact that me, as a white guy whose father still was just a school teacher and didn't have money to pay for his kid's college education, you know, should have been just as deserving. But, so, it took, to this day, that bugged me, because I felt it was unequal, and that's what I want to see, is equality. And not just equality as far as statistical analysis, but actual equal opportunity for every single kid. That's what I want to see.
Well, is there a motion that anybody's going to make here? I don't see any.
I would just, I don't know, what was the are we going to hear from the rubric?
I'm working on finding it.
Should we,
Sorry, I didn't realize I would
can
need to
we
have it
make a
for-
motion that we table it till next time and that we?
I'll second that. Why don't we table this discussion until next time? Then we'll have the rubric and anything else. Mr. Justice?
I do have a motion. Can we,
Well, we actually just did a motion.
okay, so you need to vote on
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna vote on his motion. So, our motion is to table. We have first and second. Do you want a discussion, or you want to?
No, that's fine, we can just vote.
Okay, we'll vote. All in favor of tabling it to our next,
It would need to be due at some certain time. We had this come up in that last board meeting.
Oh,
to our next meeting?
Table two of some certain time.
Right, it'll be tabled until the August, policy meeting. Okay?
aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so that'll be tabled. So, that'll be 4150 tabled until our August meeting. Ms. Justice?
All right, this motion's a little different in a sense. I make a motion that in the future, like we do with our agenda review or any, maybe other committees, that when we have policies we would like to take into consideration, that they are into the chair by the Friday previous of the meeting.
I will second that, because I think that's a great idea.
Yes, that would have solved a lot.
Okay. And that's still, will not, if somebody wants to add it and we have a second, we can do that. But as far as normal, I think that's a great thing. We don't have that written in stone, now we would.
Okay.
So, any discussion?
What time?
Friday by 5, isn't that what we're
5
supposed
o'clock
to do?
is perfect. 5
Yeah.
o'clock.
I think that's what we're supposed to do.
Does that work for you?
Well, how about we say 4, so at least I can get it, get it to her by that. 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Typically, we would let Ms. Kadetsky know anyway, and we
Right.
CC her on anything we were gonna add anyway, like that.
Well, if you send it to me and Ms. Kadetsky by 4 o'clock on Friday, it gives her a little bit of time to be able to at least put it, download it and stuff.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by, any discussion? No. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, passes 3-0. Like it, thank you, Ms. Justice.
And I will let you know, I did check on one thing. There are 18 students on the wait list for Isaac Bear. There are 0 on the list for CTEC. So it may be a question of, it may or may not be a significant issue as we think if there's not a long waiting list at any of those schools.
I just have a question, because I had that person I mentioned that came and I said, I'm not in the middle of the whole thing, who was trying to get into CTEC, and we were trying to do the, remember I questioned the brother, sister, sibling situation?
See me about that apple thing.
Okay.
Right now, they currently have 0 on the waiting list. I
Okay,
don't know if they
okay,
withdrew or
maybe,
something else.
yeah, maybe they took the name off. Okay, cool, very good. That'll be something else. All right, we're gonna carry on, because we're having a good time today. All right, next one on my listing is 4329, 7311, bullying and harassing behavior prohibited. We look down.
I think at the last meeting, we, Ms. Varnum had said that she'd be willing to perhaps do a draft or rewrite of this policy. Was she able to do that?
The only thing I have on here is the red, whether we use the word sex or biological sex.
This was, recall from our last meeting, I didn't like the fact that, you know, I think it was kind of poorly written as far as, you know, I want our bullying and harassment policy to unequivocally state that, you know, any form of bullying and harassment for any reason will not be tolerated. And it seems like there's a lot of, you know, protected class talk and intent stuff and Title IX stuff thrown in all together, and it's not very clear that I don't care if you bully or harass somebody in a protected class or somebody who isn't in a protected class, we're not putting up with it. And so I want to make sure that that's clear. So I thought when we were at our last meeting, Ms. Varnum had said that some of this she thought could be more clear, and that we could maybe, she would have it for our next meeting, if I recall.
And I am sorry, she is trapped in New York at the moment, but I do think what you're speaking of is on page 28, very clearly in the first two paragraphs. It says that bullying and harassment of any child creates an atmosphere of intimidation and fear, detracts from the safe environment necessary. The board expects all students, employees, volunteers, and visitors to behave in a manner consistent with that goal. Prohibits bullying and harassing behavior, encouragement of bullying or harassing behavior that takes place in school, on a bus, at a bus stop, any school-sponsored activity, yada, yada, yada. The policy is not intended to prohibit expression of religious, philosophical, or social or political views, provided that expression does not substantially disrupt the educational environment. So I understand
But
what
then
you're
it goes
saying
on
about,
a list
It's
about
there.
protected classes and stuff, so I think it confuses the issue, and it could be more clear, which is, I thought even Ms. Barnum thought it could be a little bit clearer.
Yes, Ms. Justice?
Okay, I wanted to ask legal advice.
I was ready for it.
Okay, all right. The only thing that I see right here that's deleted, and by the way, I see no problem between the reading at the beginning of the policy and then here more differentiation of personal characteristics. That's, I mean, that covers everybody. And how can you be exact anyhow? I mean, this is life. But what I'm looking at here is the change that they're asking for is, they deleted gender, and then they have biological sex. Didn't you say that the word sex was good enough? Why are we putting biological sex in there?
Mr. Blanchard and I had a conversation with Kendra Hill of the NCSBA earlier this week, or maybe it was last week Friday, I don't remember. And she was very clear that there has been no change in their policies to add the word biological.
So sex is good enough?
I think sex is fine. I don't think we need
Yeah.
biological or biologically throughout, wherever is red, I'm not sure we need that.
I'm not even sure that's why that's in there.
And I think if we want to mirror what they have up there at
It is sex?
overall, it's just, you leave it at sex. I do agree with Mr. Perry's points, that our policy, you can't bully anybody, no matter what you are, or what you
Pretty much
want to be,
covers it.
how you feel, we can't bully anyone, and I think we do a good job in this policy covering that. I don't think we need some of the different nuances, but that could be argued.
well, and those nuances are in there because they're drawn from federal and state law.
Accurate, yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to imply that you have to have it in your policy, but it does imply that I'm going to have to follow it. Whether or not this policy says anything, I'm still beholden to federal and state law as well. So I'm assuming it's in there because it's cleaner. If I have to be beholden to these things, regardless if it's in our policy or not, it makes sense to have them aligned.
So you're saying that in your expert
In my
opinion-
estimation, I don't know if I'd use expert opinion,
Well,
but
no,
in my
you're
estimation,
superintendent. You're an
these are
expert.
tied into the legal references and the cross references at the very last page on 39.
Okay. Ms. Justice?
Yeah, I would like a motion, I'd like to move that we remove the word biological sex, because that's, trying to get rid of some of this wording, and it makes no sense to have that in there. because- I mean, they even said that in the state.
Biological or biological sex?
Just move the word biological, not the word sex. Sex is supposed to cover everything. That's what the NCAA, yeah, I do.
So you're making sure, I understand your motion. You're saying you're making a motion, we move 43, 29, 73, 11 onto the full board, removing the word biological.
That's all, yeah.
Okay, I'll second that. Mr. Perry?
I think we should wait and hear from Mr. Harnum. And if you couldn't be here, I guess you say she's stuck in New York, but, I mean, if you had something drawn up, we could read it first.
Honestly, I did not draw something up because when I found out it was tied to state and federal law, I sort of said, okay, there we are. I mean, what I could do, and I think maybe this sort of bridges the gap a little bit, is maybe adding a paragraph towards the end or at the beginning that says no indication of any specific instance in this policy. Like I could maybe make like a coverage that says regardless of the things described in there, any bullying, harassment of any reason for any kind is not prohibited, is prohibited. Yet I could sort of rework that first sentence to say,
Okay.
regardless of the individual things that are listed below, any bullying at any time is against our policy. You know, does that make sense?
I will amend the motion, Ms. Justice's motion to table this so that we can do that.
Okay, and when Ms. Barnum comes back, or he gets it written up
Right.
next meeting?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I was confused by the last one. I thought when I saw that, because it says, if you look on page 28, if you look at bullying, harassment prohibited, blah, 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 if you go down there, protected by federal law, for federally protected characteristics such as, that's what the federal law says. So we have it in there because that's what it says. Now, we can always say regardless of the characteristics listed below, our school system has a no tolerance for bullying, harassment, anything like that.
Again.
It's a question of what you want. I think it's important to know that if the federal law and the state law are requiring these things, I think you almost wonder if we're not requiring it, what does that say as well? What
Not
does that
following the
mean?
law.
Well, we're gonna follow law either way.
Okay, so, we have the motion table, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, this will be tabled until the August, what's the date on that, August? We were officially in the board.
It was changed only because it's around
A leadership retreat getting way over my
the
phone.
leadership. So that's why it's not.
I don't think they checked with me on my dates.
I'm not, this is, could be news. I hit button, accept things that sometimes,
August 13th.
it's not a Friday.
Which is a Wednesday.
Good.
Well, it's not a Friday.
No,
Uh-oh, I'm getting a look over here now. Mr. Vincent? At the leadership retreat?
Leadership retreat on the 14th.
Over on the 14th?
It's on the 14th.
Oh, why would we move it from the 12th? Okay, well, let's leave it on the 12th then. All right, so we'll look at that command decision, love it. We will table policy 43, 29, 73, 11 until August 12th. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we're just putting everything back on the table. We can have a full meeting in August. All right, let's see what our next thing. All right, next we have 9120, construction.
I would, and you got copies, I believe you already did from the, this is something that Mr. Blanchard sent to us during the month. In regards to, because there were some questions of whether we could have a local preference policies. I would really, I think most of us would like to give preference to our local companies because it's good for our community. And, you know, what's good for our community is good for our tax base, which is good for us. So, but anyway, so, and I think that some of this, and I'm sure Mr. Kromke can speak to it, but if you did get a chance to read through it, it does seem to be legal. If maybe not as far as specifying who their employees can be, but that we can make a local preference.
Mr. Conkey?
Gordon and I spoke about this. I'm good with the blue language that he's come up with. It recognizes that, recognizes the goal of bidding, of awarding and considering our local contractors and people, vendors and what have you. But at the same time, we have to recognize federal and state laws in what we do. So,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we pass the amendments to 9120 as specified.
Okay, I'll second that. Ms. Justice, do you have anything?
Basically, striking out the red, you like the blue, the legal, and the,
that's from Mr. Blanchard, Ms.
Right.
Justice.
and mainly it says we try to get local bidding, but the point is, we still have to go low ball and follow state law.
Right.
Okay, well, I'm for that.
All in favor, please signify by moving 9120 on to the full board in the August meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And yes, sir.
Sorry. Ashley, this does not, or Rob, this does not create additional work for you guys having to win between, this one isn't the one that is the concern, it's 9220, I think, right? Does this create extra headache or work for the two of you?
No, it just gives that flexibility and as part of the bidding process.
Perfect.
The rubric, you could give points for local.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, that's what I thought, thank you. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you. All right,
Okay.
carrying 9220 on to the full board. Thank you, Dr. Barnes. And we are at 2210. Finish out our day. Officer duties of the officers. This was brought to the full board and then brought back to us for further discussion. So we will have further discussion. Now, we've tabled, or we have made a discussion of adding two policies, and I had them written down here somewhere. 2120 and 2230 on to the next meeting.
Yeah.
We can discuss this now, or we can discuss the three of them together.
What would be more efficient?
Well,
You want me to just explain?
why don't you go ahead and explain, and then we'll go from there.
So if we look at duties of the chairperson under A1, and then there's a new set of ones. The ones that seem to me, if you go, there's one there for, C, appoint all board committee members and chairpersons, appoint board representatives to all board advisory committees and outside commissions and boards. And I want to keep that, obviously that's the power of the board, but I want to clarify it a little bit more. So I wanted to reference, change C here to reference, in addition, where we go back to our committee statute policy and add a section for the committee selection process. That goes into a little bit more detail. And then the other one was this other stuff after I, there's a whole list of stuff about additional responsibilities, and I don't think that that is appropriate here under the power of the code of, it talks about code of ethics and board members and apologies and, you know, censors. This should be under our board ethics, the process for, you know, policy, not here.
You know, if I could speak to it, I basically got this from several different places. I did the writing on this, and I think it does need to be here because if we elected board chair, I think that's why electing a board chair is a very important job because we are putting a lot of power in that person's hands. Ms. Justice, you can remember back when we had some situations before where we were like, and I think it is a situation that if we do, we need, as Dr. Barnes said before, you know, I think it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it also, you know, that person is someone, hopefully out of the seven of us, that we can trust and feel like that they are doing the right thing, you know, and sometimes the answer, you know, it's like everything else, and things I'm going through right now, and I think you went through recently, Ms. Justice, is, you know, sometimes you're expecting that yes, and you get a no, and, you know, it is what it is, but, you know, you still have to trust and have faith in that person. So I think, you know, that this is, anybody on the board can bring forth a censure. As far as removal from board assignments, that is something that our current chair has done. We had a chair that, you know, set it as a precedent a while back.
Oh, that's been in 2018 during the sexual assault scandals when I demanded a investigation. I got taken off of all my committees in retaliation.
Right.
Yeah, so it can be done in all kinds of ways,
Oh, yeah, and not in a positive way, so.
not in a positive
I mean,
way.
you know, that's something we need to, you know, we should maybe look at and think about, and maybe that's a power we don't want the chair to have. But if we don't want the chair to have that, then we meet as a board to decide that. But I mean, this is what, this is what we have current, this is actually the current status, is what, you know, because.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting along with the other two, so we can discuss it all.
Okay, so, and thank you for explaining what you just said, because, so you're the one that came up with in the red to change, do
I
add some
did.
changes?
And I didn't write this, I'm not gonna take full credit. I looked at a lot of different policies throughout,
Okay.
the states. Actually, I think the top red part
Okay.
is mostly from Kansas.
Kansas,
I think it was
that's a little scary.
Yeah, maybe it was Kentucky, one of those two.
I was
It's a K.
Kentucky. I've got roots in Kentucky. Anyway, the reason I said that is because it was pretty clear cut before, and this is just adding more verbiage. But I did like the fact that somebody added the agenda planning, which has always been part of the chair's job, even now that we meet as a group. But they've always worked with the superintendent with that. So that's good that that has been placed on here and verbalized. But as far as adding them to the ethical part, I am really concerned about some of the use of say, the censor process that has been abused since it was first used against me, tried to keep me quiet about some of the previous superintendent's behavior. And so, I mean, that was pretty straightforward why that process took place. I think that I wish it had never been introduced. A lot of the stuff that this is going on with this term censor is not appropriate, I think. I think it's being used inappropriately, and it does not help our district, and it takes a lot of energy out of what's going on. So, yeah, we do look at it more closely. I would like to have some feedback from other board members to us before we do this. I know they're going to eventually vote overall, but I would like to make the statement that I think that the process of censor has been abused, and it's not because in the long run it didn't hurt me. But I think that that's something that superintendent, sorry, that the, yeah, censor us, that the chair can use and abuse, and that's what's hard when you do elect a chair, and I don't think, in some cases it's even meant to be that way, but it turns out that way. We really need to look at this closer, so
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we have a motion in front of us to table this,
Yeah.
Along with the other two.
Right.
And we can get feedback from the other members.
You a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right, all in
Sorry.
favor of tabling policy 2210 until the August meeting, because we want to stay here 4 hours on that day. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, that passes 3-0. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Ooh, I'll second.
All right. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Gee, we didn't have to do 30 of them.